my sort of mission in life is to help people be better, is help people really be their best and focus on the things that they can control so that they can get better results. So that's sort of my story. That's how I got here.
You're listening to Retirement Straight Talk with Paul and William, a father and son team helping you tackle financial planning challenges and the real-world decisions that matter most. Each episode, we'll share straightforward advice and proven strategies to help you build your dream retirement.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Retirement Straight Talk, everyone. I'm William Barreca, financial planner at West End Wealth Planning. I'm here as always with my co-host and dad, Paul Barreca. Nice to see you today, Dad. Chris Reynolds is with us. He's someone who has not only shaped the wealth planning industry in Canada, but whose new book could reshape entrepreneurs and also really everyone, not just entrepreneurs, how they think about business, success, and freedom. So before we jump in today, just a heads up, we're actually going to be giving away a couple copies of Chris's book. So make sure you stay tuned until the end of the episode here where we reveal how you could get a copy of Chris's brand new book.
And if you're a business owner, I'm getting out of script here. If you're a business owner, this book will be very, very valuable to you. If you want to stop spinning your wheels, which we all do as business owners, every entrepreneur spins their wheels to a degree. It'll help you focus on what's important for you, your family, your business, and your clients. So yeah, we're welcoming Chris today. Just a bit of an adjunct to that. I've known Chris for, I don't know, longer than you probably would like to have. Over 3 decades. Chris was many ways my mentor in this business and is to a great extent responsible for us building what I think is a fantastic business. And one of the things about Chris I've noticed over the years, as a business owner, he knows how to focus on what's important and kind of get rid of the clutter that all entrepreneurs, all business owners have in their head where they waste time doing stuff that really isn't very valuable. Those of you who want to buy Chris's book, hey, you can get it on Amazon. Believe it or not, you can get everything on Amazon. So you can go there, pick up the book. Great, great edition. So Chris,
Hey,
good to have
I'm here. So good to be here. Good to see you, Paul. Will, here's how long we've known each other, Paul. I remember when Will was born. So
Oh, yes.
we've known each other a long, long time. And together we've built up a business. I think together we've learned certainly a lot about the principles of building a business. So great to be here. Great to share especially this particular moment where I just launched my new book about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk to your audience about some of the principles in here.
Great to have you, Chris. Again, thanks for coming on. Before we get into kind of the content of the book, why don't you introduce yourself to the readers? What's your background? How did you get here?
Well, that's a funny one. So actually, I started like everybody, like you guys. I started as a financial advisor, and in fact, loved financial advising. I loved working with people. I loved helping them. And in fact, I loved the business so much that I remember I got into, let's say, a dispute with the company that I was with previously. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And as a result, founded Investment Planning Council and founded almost 30 years ago. And I did that because I had a mission, and my mission was to help advisors build a better business through a remarkable client experience. I work with advisors. I spend a lot of time with them, helping them really streamline their business so that they can really focus on the needs of their clients. Through that time, I've learned a lot. Not only have we grew through purchasing other companies, so I've been part of 27 acquisitions now of companies. I've helped advisors with succession planning. I do a podcast myself, and just wrote the book, The Six Circle Strategy, all around the same sort of theme. Is my sort of mission in life is to help people be better, is help people really be their best and focus on the things that they can control so that they can get better results. So that's sort of my story. That's how I got here.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, Chris, because in many respects, it's like retirement planning. I define financial success as having control of your life. I think you realize research shows that one of the three things that people find most important is having control to how much and when you work, how you spend your time on the things you love and have passion for, family, business, and so forth. So, in many ways, that's the key element is finding time and having the time and passion. That's what control gives to you. So, what made you, Chris, at this moment, write this book? I know I've never written a big book like this, but I can imagine this is not a small effort. It's a big effort and a frustrating effort. What made you do it right now?
It's funny, what my motivator was. So I've been doing this podcast for some time, and it's been great. And I get to have a lot of fun guests who are the top of their game. I've also got to work with tons of entrepreneurs, both in the wealth management space as well as other spaces. But it's funny, my real motivator was I was
Mhm.
watching this Netflix special on Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know if you saw it. Have you seen
I've
it?
watched about half of it.
Oh
Watched
my
about
god.
half of it.
I was enthralled, and I wasn't enthralled, like, everybody knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like, it's literally a household name. But the guy's story, man, the guy was from, backwoods Austria,
Yep.
sitting on his little bed, dreaming about
Yeah.
that one day he was going to go to America and be a movie star. And visualizing, and it's all the things I talk about. Visualize your future, visualize your success, visualize what perfection would look like in your life. And then he took the steps to get there. He literally became Mr. Olympia 7 times in a row, a feat never done by anybody. You could see he would measure his success through little lines in the wall where he
Yeah,
would
yeah,
work out
yeah,
and how many
yeah.
workouts he would do. And then he never settled. It was always something more. So then he got to America and he's like, I don't want to be in movies. I want to be a movie star. Now, one of the problems he had was he didn't even speak English.
No.
And so then he had to lift weights during the day, take English lessons. And at the same time, by the way, and a lot of people don't know that, he became a multimillionaire in his own right buying real estate.
Yeah.
And then, of course, gets the movie roles and $8 billion worth of box office tickets have been sold in Arnold Schwarzenegger movies for a guy who can barely speak English. But he didn't even stop there. Then he's like, you know what I'm going to do now? I think I'm going to marry a Kennedy, and then I'm going to be the governor of California. And so as I was watching this, I'm like, what is it that makes people successful? And to your point, Paul, success is defined in a lot of different ways, but it's really about accomplishment. It's about financial security. It's about doing the things you want to do when you want to do them. And it's about doing it with the people that you like to do that. So I came to the conclusion that there had to be commonalities. And then I looked back and reflected on my life. I
Mhm.
reflected on the lives of other people. And that's where this whole concept came of 6 circles. And why a circle? And I'll start there is because we don't know what we're doing. And anyone who thinks we know what we're doing, we do not. So what
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to do and what
Absolutely.
successful people do is maybe they're dumb or something. They just start. They just do it. Right? Many people, give excuses, think of reasons why they're not going to do something, come up with a million reasons, and I've heard every excuse in the world. But guys like us, we just do it. We fail more likely, but we learn from that failure and we start again even smarter. That's the circle. And the circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we develop our career.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues there with especially with a business owner, and everyone is guilty of this to greater or lesser extent, and that is if we have two things to do on our plate, there's the one that we should do, the one that's really valuable, but there's the one it's more fun. People will tend to gravitate to the one that's more fun, even though it's not the right thing to do. And we're all guilty of it. If you're human, you're guilty of it. That's it.
People who aren't business owners, they can draw so many lessons on this that they can apply in their own lives, can't they?
Absolutely. Like as much as as an entrepreneur, it's sort of my journey, and I try to use those parallels within the book. It really these principles apply to everybody in every walk of life, whether it's in leadership, whether it's building your career. Like you have to, if you follow all six, that is these are the principles that everybody who I've ever met, without exception, all had all six principles.
Hey, so why don't we dive into the 6 circles now, Chris? What's number 1?
One is the most important thing, which is vision. You have to have a vision of your future. They've said the difference between rich and poor is in what time frame you think of. Right? In other words, very rich people think in 20-year increments. They visualize where they should be in 20 years, whereas the poor think about next week. So when you close your eyes and visualize the perfect life, what does that look like? Or if you're an entrepreneur, close your eyes and picture what is your perfect business? Where is it located? What does it look like? Who are your clients? How would you serve them? The more that you're able to bring that vision and clarity of that vision, the easier it is to achieve it. But I know people, go their whole lives without having really a vision of what they're working for. They just go to work. They just pay the bills. They just pay their mortgage. They don't have a vision. Um, and that becomes your why. That becomes your mission statement. And one of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And Viktor Frankl tells you you can overcome any what if you have a why. And so get your why. And then to go down that point is every hero needs a quest. So think of it in your own lives. When have you ever felt your best? When have you ever been just like feeling so alive? You jump out of bed in the morning, you can't wait to tackle it. And it's usually when you have a quest, when you have a mission, whether it's, my case, when we're doing deals or, we're helping somebody or developing a new product. Like I can't wait to get out of bed and do that. And then when I don't have a quest, I'm sad because I need another quest. And that's why I think people who are genuinely out happy are always pursuing something. And my pursuits aren't always just
Yeah.
because, and you guys know me along. And my pursuits range from learning how to cook to studying red wine to learning another language. Like you always need a quest.
We work with a lot of retired clients, and the most successful retirees, they envision what their
Right.
retirement is going to look like. A lot of people don't know that or think about the fact that work takes up so much of your social life, your time. Like I said, it gives you a quest, a reason to wake up in the morning. And then all of a sudden you retire and think, what's next? So the most successful retirees think of the way, how am I going to fill that void in my life?
And if you're talking about vision, going back to Schwarzenegger, I remember watching that, and he'd be in there his bed, and he'd have pictures on the wall, and he would just sit at night and stare at them about him being, Mr. Olympia or whatever, bodybuilding at the time, just staring at them and staring at them and staring at them. The vision.
The vision. And again, you have the vision, and then as I said, every hero has a quest. You have quest after quest after quest, as he did, become Mr. Olympia, then go to Hollywood, then become governor. Then there was always a mission, and that's why he always felt alive. And if you ever see him, he's a dynamic guy, right? He's always happy, he's always positive, he's always moving forward.
Yep.
And think of the people you like to hang out with and have interesting conversations with. Those are the people who tell you with passion what their next quest is and where they're going. It's always it's that's why it's number 1 on the circles. And by the way, you can fail on your quests, and that's okay, but you learn and you start the circle over again.
And you start over. So that the first circle is vision, the next one is trust. Let's go into that one.
Trust. Everything is trust, right? Think about a business. A business is trust. But let's start at the micro. Every person that you know has a personal brand. It's what you think of them, right? That is what brand is. Brand is what you think of somebody else. And there are certain people who are trustworthy, and there are people who are not. And what's the first principle of trust? Doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
How many people can you honestly say always do what they say they're going to do?
Yes. Well, that's a great thing. You talk about often people talk about Apple and how
Right.
great they are at trust. And one of the things I know when I order a product from Apple and they'll give you a delivery date, 5 to 7 days, whatever, it always comes before the
Right.
delivery date. Always. And you trust them and you know them. That's why we're stupid and pay way more for their products because we love them.
Right. You pay a premium for a brand you trust. And what creates trust is consistency.
Yeah.
Right? The things that you don't trust are things that are inconsistent. Like if you go to a restaurant every time and they greet you by name, they know what you want, they bring you your favorite wine, you trust them. If you went in one time and they didn't know your name and they sat you at the wrong table and they brought you the wrong wine, would you ever go back to that restaurant, even if you had been there 50 times before?
Yeah.
And the answer is no, because they were not consistent. So
Yeah.
consistency builds trust. So there's two types of trust. Your personal create trust, and it's like compound interest. You continue to reinvest in the in your good name that people can trust you to do what you say you're going to do. But also trust is given. Like one of the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs make is, have you ever heard
Yes.
this expression, if you want something done right, do it yourself?
Yes.
You guys
Yes.
heard this?
However.
It's it's the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. My philosophy is everybody does something better than me. In fact, they do everything better than me. My only talent is talking. So anything that is outside of that, I trust my team will do it better than I will. I'm very specific about what results I want from the team, but I trust them to figure it out. I don't help them how to do it. I don't tell them what to do. I'm whatever the opposite of a micromanager is. In fact, I've been accused of just leaving people to their own devices.
Chris, you told a great story in your book about the difference between Tim Hortons and Pete's Donuts, I think it was. Maybe expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. So I have a little farm north of the city. And as I drive up there, on one side of the street is Tim Hortons, and on the other side of the street is Pete's Donuts. And I was reflecting on what's the difference between these two things? They both satisfy a need, a problem, which is give people donuts. However, one is all around Pete. Pete has to get up at 4:30 in the morning. He has to go make his own donuts. His wife does all the bookkeeping. His daughters help him serve all the donuts. Right across the street is literally a donut machine. It has a process for everything, including how they serve donuts, how they hire. One is owned by a dentist.
Tim Hortons.
Which one is more valuable?
I think
That
the answer to
answers
that is, of course.
Tim Hortons. Because if Pete, even
Nope.
if Pete wanted to go away to Italy for 3 weeks, could they?
Pete is the business.
And the answer is no, because you'd have to shut down Pete's Donuts. Whereas Tim Hortons can, right? And so that's the difference between having a business and having a job where you're self-employed. Because I remember when I first got opened my business, my dad's like, "Oh, you're gonna be self-employed, eh? You're gonna work for a maniac," and it's true. When you're self-employed, you work for a maniac.
Yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Well,
biggest maniac there is.
just going back a bit to trust, I mean, the same thing relates to people in their personal lives. When you're more trustworthy, your spouse, your partner, your children, all your friends around you, it becomes a much better situation if there's real trust. If you have a friend and they say something and you go, yeah, yeah, sure, like that'll never happen. Is that a really deep relation? Is that a satisfying relationship? It won't become that way. Same thing
Right.
is with personal life.
Yeah.
So
Eh,
the next item I think, Chris, you got is focus. That's the next circle.
focus.
Why don't we dive into that one?
So this is of all of them, I would say this is the one that's the hardest for entrepreneurs and hardest for people, which is focus. Um, the people that are the most successful are ruthlessly focused on a few things that they can do better than anyone else. And everything else, there's my lessons. There's three things that you should do through your life. You should be constantly outsourcing, delegating, and systemizing every aspect of your life so that you can ruthlessly focus on the things that create value for your clients. And that's hard because we're very distracted in this world. Now, let's use the wealth management business, right? There's just so many opportunities, so many
Yep.
products, so many things. And you can spend your whole life trying to figure out what the right thing is, or you can hone down and focus on solving client problems. So you have two choices. You can spend all your life figuring out what is the best product to recommend or whatever, or you can hone in on giving the greatest client experience. Which one is more valuable? And so everybody I know who is highly successful, and if you look at every highly successful person in all of society, it's because they've honed their skills down to a few tactics. We just have, the Blue Jays and the baseball team. Right, the pitcher, what do you think he spends all day doing, all night? Does he think about all day? Is pitching. That's all he does because he get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to pitch. Do you think he moves his own furniture? Do you think he cleans his own house? Any of those things? No. All of those things are delegated. He doesn't do his own contracts. He doesn't book his own travel. People surround this one person so that they can put him on the mound and pitch.
I think
Do
Warren
well.
Buffett said
We has to think of
I think
ourselves.
Warren Buffett said once, Chris,
To relate
the
to,
key to success is being able to say no to almost anything. And he's talked a lot about how his schedule is not that busy because he says his skill is basically reading and evaluating businesses. So any time not spent doing that, it's time wasted for him.
yeah, you could relate that also, go back to Apple and Steve Jobs when he got rehired, I think with the late 90s, whenever.
Yeah.
He says one of the biggest things he did is let's cut out all this crap that we're doing as a company, all these products, way too many. Let's focus on a few core items and make them really, really good. The exact same idea.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's focus. The next circle is the fourth one is value. Let's talk about that.
Value. Well, value, there's a basic principle, um, and it's been talked about in many, many different forms and different books, but really, you cannot create value for yourself until you create value for others. So if you want to make more money, the only way that you could possibly make more money is to create more value for more people. So if you subscribe to that theory of value, then your whole life's work as an entrepreneur or even as a person is thinking of better ways that they can create value. And an entrepreneur is very easy. What you wake up in the morning think about is how can I create more value for my clients? What do they think is valuable? And what we get paid for primarily is to solve problems. Like you guys are experts at retirement and retirement income. That is the problem that you solve better than anybody in the industry. And you continue to solve it. But that's not all that you do. While you're doing that, you also create a great and memorable client experience. So, in other words, do people remember all of the retirement work and all the technicalities, or do they remember how you made them feel? And they won't remember how they made them feel. And I'll use a story to illustrate this. My own mother. So my mom was staying down with me, and she'd come to visit, and she loves her advisor, who's an IPC advisor, of course. But she was like, "Oh, I love my advisor. He's so nice. He's cool. He's this. He's that." And I'm like, Mom, what do you like about your advisor? She's like, Chris, on a regular basis, he calls me just to ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, that's fantastic, Mom. I'm like, Mom, but tell me, what was your rate of return on
I
your
don't know.
investments last year? You know what her answer was?
I don't know.
I I don't know. I'm like, oh, I'm like, do you know what you pay your advisor on an annual basis? No. I'm like, could you name 3 holdings in your investments? And the answer is nope. It illustrates my point that most people just want to have somebody they can trust who looks after them. All of the technical stuff, although not unimportant, are not as important to our clients as we think they are.
Right, and I'd relate that a bit to our industry. Well, you and I, we generally go on all of our client meetings. And one of the things that's been massively, massively heartwarming for me is when clients at the end of the meeting, without being asked, they'll say things like, "We really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you reaching out to us. I appreciate the communication." It gives us peace of mind. It makes us feel better. When a client says that to us without us asking, what a warm, for me anyway, well, doing this for 35 years, it's an incredibly warm feeling, and it says, "Hey, we're adding some value. We're doing something good."
See, and
Okay, so that's value. The next one, fifth one, relationships. Really important one. Relationships, the next circle.
right. Everybody I know who's successful is successful because they're good at relationships. They're good at maintaining relationships. And by the way, these relationships aren't just, client
Oh,
relationships. These are relationships in general. Because at the end of the day, and let's use business, business is people. It doesn't matter what you're selling it to people. And people have their own fears, they have their own goals, they have their own doubts, they have their own insecurities. And the more and the better that you're able to recognize people as people and develop relationships with them, the more successful you will be. And this is also, relationships with your team members, relationships with your suppliers, relationships with your other partners. All of these things, people who are successful spend a lot of time cultivating good relationships. I say more things can be accomplished over a steak dinner than 10 business meetings or 10 board meetings.
Yeah.
It's all about getting to know people on a personal basis. And once you do, and you genuinely care about them and want to help them, everything moves smoother. And so the key again to success is developing strong relationships in your life.
Yeah, and well, you and I could relate to that. We try to get out with as many clients as we can for a lunch. Uh, no business, and we
Right.
tell them, "Hey, let's just break some bread together." No business, and but I learn more about the clients during those lunches than during the meetings where you
Especially in our
the
business,
balance
money,
is kind of
besides perhaps your health, is
totally,
one of those
totally
personal
true.
things about you.
Yeah,
And so to really help someone with their money, you have to get to know them on a
bingo.
personal level as well. It's super important.
Absolutely. So the last of the big six circles, fulfillment. Chris,
Right.
talk to us.
Fulfillment is circle number 6 is fulfillment, which is why do we do all of this? At the end of the day, what does it matter? Uh, you can say it's financial success. I'm not saying that's unimportant because of course it is. But what really is important is, have you done the things you wanted to do? Right? Have you, if you like travel, if you like food, fulfillment is about every aspect of your life being fulfilled. And it's something, again, that is a journey. It's not something that you just arrive at. And when you're a business owner like myself or like yourself in ownership, part of that fulfillment is succession. And I know you guys, you have father and son, which is fantastic. In my case, I sold my business and brought in a new president, CEO. Like at the other day, I didn't build it so I could do it for my whole life. I did it and built it so that I could sit back and do the things I enjoy doing, which is what I do now. I get to talk to my friends all day. I get to work on strategy and I get to buy companies. I would do that for free. I love that. So you got to ask yourself, fulfillment is that day where you keep doing it because you love it, not because you need to do it. And so that is the last circle that everybody I know is successful is doing it for personal fulfillment, not necessarily monetary gain. I'm not discounting monetary gain, but anyone who does
Yeah, I
it
think I've heard you
for so long.
say something before, Chris, that really struck
Yeah.
with me. And
That's just
basically
true.
define what you're talking about here, fulfillment, and what you do for a living. It has to be something you're good at, something you enjoy doing, I believe. And then there's one other thing I forget.
Although it's something that you love to do,
Yeah.
it's something that you can be better at than anybody else, right? And it has to have an economic benefit to it. In other words, somebody has to pay you to do it because you can have something you enjoy and you're good at, but if it doesn't pay the bills, it's called a hobby.
Yes, and a rather expensive hobby, I might add. There's a lot of people that do that. They just work themselves to death. As a business owner, they're up early, they're late, and they're just paying the bills. And it's almost sad to see. I mean, I've even seen it in our business, Chris. Some other advisors, smart people too, they won't get an assistant. And they want to do everything themselves.
Right.
To me, Miserable life, miserable life.
Right. Right. Work for a maniac.
Yes, yes.
So it's such a powerful framework, and what stands out
Right.
is it's not sequential. These circles, like you said, Chris, I think at the top of the show, they sort of build on each other. It's a compounding effect, and you're constantly coming back to each one.
Yeah. Life is not easy and it's not a straight line. Like, again, we're taught in school that you go from X to Y, there's bumps in between, but I don't really see it that way. The way I see it is, as I start and you know you're going to fail. You're not going to get it all right. No one ever gets it right on the first roll. But what you have to do is really learn from it. Once you learn, you adapt and you start again. And that's why I call it a circle. And to your point, you don't start at one circle and go to each circle is interconnected. You can't create value without having people trust you. You can't create a vision without great relationships.
Chris, it's been a real pleasure having you on and learning more about your new book. So, for listeners who want to dive deeper, where can they get their hands on a copy of the book, Chris?
But you can get it anywhere, like any of the online bookstores, Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Noble. But the easiest thing to do is just go to my book website, which is chrissreynolds.ca, and they'll link you right up to any of the whatever your favorite bookstore is, and they'll send it right to you.
As well, as promised, we're giving away a couple copies of Chris's book free. So to be entered to win a copy, go to our Instagram page at West End Well Planning. Find the post about this episode and tag 3 friends in the comments who you think would benefit from. And also make sure you're following our account to enter. So that's it. Do those things and you'll be entered to win a free copy. If you're enjoying the podcast, just take a second to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It just helps others find the show and join in on the conversation. So we'll see everyone next time on Retirement Straight Talk.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
The views and opinions expressed in this video may not necessarily reflect those of IPC Securities Corporation. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.